Welcome to America First Hot Take, the channel where we take today's headlines, throw a big old dose of common sense, and slap an America First spin on it. I'm your host, John, here to deliver opinions that'll make patriots proud, causing those America-hating Democrats to cry their liberal tears. We're not here to sugarcoat it, folks. We're here to tell it like it is. So let's get into it. All right. They've been wanting to talk about January 6th. They haven't stopped talking about January 6th. But let's talk about it. Since it is the day the media won't let us forget. The day that's worse than World War II. Worse than the Civil War. Worse than 9/11. Let's talk about it. We're now learning that the government had at least 26 federal informants in and around the crowd that day. 26. Let that sink in for a second. Not one, not two, not five, not 10. 26. 24 plus people working with or for the Fed. Mingling among the protesters. And now we're supposed to act like that doesn't change the narrative. Let me remind you a little bit. This is the same FBI and DOJ that has lied, misled, and outright stonewalled Congress about their involvement. Under oath, no less. They swore up and down there was no widespread federal interference, that everything was on the up and up. Turns out that was a lie too. They knew. They orchestrated. And now, when the heat's on, the truth just happens to start ripping out. Isn't that convenient? And what's hilarious, if you can even call that, is how everything is lining up. Donald Trump is less than a month away from becoming the 47th president of the United States. You think that's a coincidence that these bombshells are popping up now? You think it's a coincidence that these people are trying to get ahead of the story before the wrath of Donald Trump comes? And I don't mean wrath in a negative way. That wrath is truth. He's going to open the files, open the drawers, show transparency like government should. And they're running. See, the thing was, Trump was in court for the last 4 years on a lie. He didn't really do those things. But these people, they're guilty. So while Trump stood tall, knowing he had his innocence on his side, these people are running like rats because they're guilty. And what's hilarious is Christopher Wray. Yes, the most corrupt FBI director in history. No question. This guy sat in front of Congress with that smug look on his face and said that there were no informants. Where is Wray now? Oh yeah, he resigned in disgrace, like a coward. He couldn't even wait because he knew Trump was going to fire him. He had to run away, like all these keyboard warrior Democrats and liberals always do. And don't forget the media's role in this. For years, they shoved this insurrection narrative down our throats. That is all we heard. Like I said earlier, worse than 9/11. They vilified anyone who even thought about questioning it. But now, crickets. They don't want to talk about these lies under oath, and they certainly don't want to talk about how this entire thing smells like a giant setup. But here's the good news. They can't hide it anymore. Not with all this evidence coming to light. Not with whistleblowers stepping up and exposing the rot at the core of these institutions. Folks, this isn't about left and right anymore. This is about power, raw, unchecked power, and how far these Democrats are willing to go to keep it. They're terrified of Trump, and they should be. But really, them being terrified of Trump is them being terrified of the truth, of transparency, of all of this coming to light. Not their story, the story. It's going to be no more business as usual. No more cover-ups. No more weaponized DOJ. And you better believe that terrifies you. So what do we do as patriots? We just keep asking questions. We demand accountability. And we don't let them get away with rewriting history. January 6th was not the insurrection they painted it as. It was something much, much darker. It was a glimpse into just how far these Democrats are willing to go to hold on to power. And now that we know the truth, it's up to us to make sure they're held accountable. And one last thing. Isn't it funny how every one of these stories that they said were conspiracy theories turned into, spoiler alert, I think I'm betting 1,000. First, they denied the federal involvement, confirmed. Then they said the FBI wasn't corrupt. Okay. They also said Trump would never win in 2016. And now he won with America on his back. Again. You can hear the panic from a mile away.
This is a pretty big piece of news to kick off the show today, Sandra. I'm John Roberts in Washington. The report reveals that there were a total of 26 confidential human sources in the crowd that day.
David Spunt is live from the Justice Department. He has got the news for us. David.
Sandra, 3 of those were authorized and tasked by the FBI to be there on January 6, 2021. We're coming up on 4 years since that day of the Capitol riot. This IG report specifically focuses on the FBI's handling of confidential human sources, or as we know them, FBI informants. For years, the outgoing FBI director, Christopher Wray, has been pressed on reports of undercover agents. According to this new report, there were no undercover FBI agents. However, there were 3 confidential human sources tasked by the Bureau to be in the crowd on January 6th to specifically watch what the report states is concerns over domestic terrorism. Out of those 3, Sandra and John, 1 entered the Capitol, 2 others entered a restricted area. The report says the FBI did not encourage or authorize any sources to go into the building or a restricted area. In addition to the 3 confidential human sources, the FBI told there were 23 that were there on their own. Now, they had worked with the FBI in the past on other cases, but not specifically on the January 6th rally. Some of them entered a restricted area as well. And what stands out in this report, John and Sandra, none of the confidential human sources that entered the U.S. Capitol or a restricted area were prosecuted by the D.C. U.S. Attorney's Office. Remember, this is an office that is still arresting nearly 4 years later and prosecuting people with this case. Now, in a response to the Inspector General, the D.C. U.S. Attorney's Office says the following. The D.C. U.S. Attorney's Office generally has not charged those individuals whose only crime on January 6, 2021 was to enter the restricted grounds surrounding the Capitol, which has resulted in the office declining to charge hundreds of individuals, and we have treated the confidential human sources as consistent with this approach. Outgoing FBI Director Christopher Wray, who announced that he would be stepping down in the next few weeks yesterday, has been pressed on the FBI's role on January 6. Here's just one clip from last year.
If you are asking whether the violence at the Capitol on January 6 was part of some operation orchestrated by FBI sources and or agents, the answer is emphatically
You're saying
not.
no?
No.
You're saying no?
Not
Okay.
violence orchestrated by
Let's move
FBI
on.
sources or agents.
Confidential human sources tasked by the FBI are not undercover agents. These are people that belong to groups like, for instance, the Proud Boys, the Oath Keepers, and then became paid FBI informants at certain points in time while still being members of their groups. And of course, John and Sandra, others are not part of any group and just decided to show up to the Capitol for whatever reason and still work with the FBI on the side and provide information.
I wouldn't hold your breath. All they do is lie. You see how easy it was for Christopher Wray to look at all of Congress and just lie. If that were you and me, we'd immediately go to jail. That's contempt. That's lying under oath. That's a felony. You can't lie to Congress. And they do it non-stop. Something's got to change. That's why maybe 20%, and I'd like to meet those 20%, of the country actually trusts the FBI, the DOJ, the CIA. Those are supposed to be our powerhouses, the people that keep us safe. And they're the ones we trust the least. Thank God Trump's coming. Thank God Vivek, Elon, Tulsi, RFK, even Bezos is coming. Even the Facebook guy, I can't think of his name, is coming. They see the writing on the wall. They went too far. And it's time to blow everything that's been going in an opposite direction. Because we hit rock bottom. Only way is to go up. And thankfully we have somebody that can go up. Because it's about as bad as it can get. We got wars everywhere. We got Joe Biden, who doesn't even know how to tie his shoe anymore, selling the border wall for $5 a piece, doing anything they can just to make it as difficult for Trump to start his presidency as possible, when all he wants to do is make America great. To give us our tax money back, or at least some of it. To give middle America a better chance at life, to lower the prices of groceries, to lower gas, to do no tax on tips. Everything he's doing is for us. He's already rich. It doesn't matter. Yes, maybe he can make a little bit more money or something, but he's going to make his money regardless. It's us that he's trying to help. And these Democrats and corrupt DOJ, FBI, CIA are doing everything they possibly can to make it as hard as it can be for Trump to help us, middle America, live a better life. A life we should be able to live if we work hard in the greatest country in the world. So I hope he comes and fires 100,000 bureaucrats on day one and gets every single J6, unless they were fighting with cops or whatever, right out of jail, pardons them. If you can pardon the crackhead hunter, you should be able to pardon the guy that they railroaded just so they could say, look what I did. So, I don't know. I see things going to change real fast, and I can't wait. And I hope they go after every single one of these people and put them in the same seat that they put Trump in for the last 4 years. Because Trump was innocent. He always had that on his side. These people are super guilty. And I want to see them weasel out of that. But that's the hot take. Thanks for watching America First Hot Take. We'll see you on the next one. Peace.